Struggling single black mom apologized for bringing her daughter on a blind date, but the CEO just smiled and said, Ethan had dated models and actresses, but the woman apologizing for bringing her daughter was the first one who made him forget about his phone. Are you going to be my new daddy? Hi viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. She stood in the rain, clutching her daughter's hand, knowing she was about to walk into the kind of restaurant where her two jobs combined couldn't buy a single appetizer. But desperation makes cowards of us all. Friday night in Charlotte, North Carolina. The kind of evening that starts with hope and ends with regret. Denise Martinez wiped her sweaty palms against her only good dress, the black one she'd worn to job interviews and her grandmother's funeral. Same dress, different prayer. Mama, why are we standing in the rain? 7-year-old Maya tugged at her mother's hand, brown eyes wide with curiosity rather than complaint. What do you do when showing up might be the biggest mistake of your life? Have you ever felt completely out of place, but knew running would hurt more than staying? That's where Denise found herself at 7:43 p.m., staring up at the golden lights of Fahrenheit, Charlotte's most exclusive rooftop restaurant. The babysitter had canceled 2 hours ago. Text message. No explanation. Just can't make it tonight, sorry. 3 weeks of planning, outfit shopping at discount stores, practicing conversation topics in the mirror, all crashing down because her neighbor's teenager had better things to do. Denise could have canceled, should have canceled, but something deep in her chest refused to give up. Maybe it was exhaustion from working double shifts at the medical clinic and driving for DoorDash until midnight. Maybe it was the way her friends at work kept insisting she deserved happiness after 3 years of solo parenting. Or maybe it was just stubborn pride that made her climb those glass stairs with Maya's small hand in hers. The hostess looked them up and down. Wet hair, slightly smudged makeup, a child where there should have been sophisticated conversation. Her smile never wavered, but her eyes told the real story. This wasn't the kind of place for single mothers who brought their kids to dates. I'm sorry, we have a reservation, Denise started, voice shaking slightly. Martinez, party of 2, 3 now. I can explain. Then I guess I get to know both of you tonight. The voice came from behind her, warm and confident. Denise turned to see a man whose smile made her forget she was soaking wet. Tall, well-dressed in that effortless way that screamed money, with eyes that looked at Maya first, not with annoyance, but with genuine interest. This was Ethan. The blind date her coworker had set up with warnings about managing expectations and not getting too attached. The tech CEO who supposedly had everything but couldn't find someone real. You must be Maya, he said, crouching down to her level. I'm Ethan. Your mom told me you're the artist in the family. Maya giggled, suddenly shy. I drew you a picture, but it got wet. Even better. Watercolor is very sophisticated. Call out the problem directly. Single mothers being judged for daring to want love while prioritizing their children. How many times had Denise heard the whispers? She's looking for a father figure, using that kid to get sympathy. No man wants ready-made responsibilities. But here was Ethan, asking the hostess for crayons before they'd even reached their table. What happens when someone sees your family as a blessing instead of baggage? When they order from the kids' menu without hesitation and listen to 7-year-old chatter about school like it's the most important conversation they've ever had. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere but showed up anyway, this story is for you. Hit that like button if you know what it means to fight for your dreams, even when your dreams include tiny hands and bedtime stories. The restaurant buzzed with Friday night energy, couples celebrating anniversaries, business deals being made over wine that cost more than Denise's rent. But at their corner table, something different was happening. Ethan was asking Maya about her favorite colors, drawing stick figures on cloth napkins, making both mother and daughter laugh until Denise's cheeks hurt. Most people see a complication when they see us together, Denise admitted during a quiet moment while Maya colored. I see a family, Ethan replied without hesitation. The words hit her like a physical force. When was the last time someone had used that word, family, without pity or judgment attached? As Maya fell asleep against Denise's shoulder 2 hours later, tiny fingers still clutching a crayon, Ethan reached for the check. His fingers brushed hers in the exchange. The contact lasted 3 seconds too long to be accidental, and when their eyes met, Denise felt something she'd sworn off after her last heartbreak. Hope. The dangerous, foolish, heart-racing kind of hope that makes single mothers do stupid things like believe in fairy tales. The hostess looked at Maya with barely concealed disdain, but before Denise could apologize and leave, a voice behind her said, "Then I guess I get to know both of you tonight." She turned to see a man whose smile made her forget she was soaking wet. Ethan had dated models and heiresses, but the woman apologizing for bringing her daughter was the first one who made him forget about his phone. Saturday morning. Freedom Park. The kind of casual second date that reveals everything important: how someone treats children, waitstaff, and the homeless man asking for change outside the coffee shop. Denise had suggested the playground. Maya needs to burn off energy, and I need to see if you're the same person in daylight, she'd said with the kind of honesty that made most men run. Ethan showed up with a kite. Not just any kite. A rainbow delta wing that cost more than most people's grocery budgets, but flew like a dream in the hands of a 7-year-old who'd never owned anything that wasn't practical. "You didn't have to do that," Denise protested, but her eyes were soft as she watched Maya chase the colorful tail across the grass. "I wanted to." Simple words. Revolutionary concept. Drop a heart in the comments if you've ever had someone see your family as a blessing, not a burden. The playground was busy with Saturday morning families. Soccer moms in matching athleisure, dads coaching from sidelines, grandparents pushing swings with practice patience. Normal families. Intact families. The kind Denise used to dream about before reality taught her different lessons. Maya was fearless on the monkey bars, hanging, swinging, attempting moves that made Denise's heart jump into her throat. When she slipped and scraped her knee, the tears came fast and loud. Ethan was there before Denise could move. "Hey, warrior princess," he said, scooping Maya up with the ease of someone comfortable around children. "Battle scars are proof of brave adventures." He examined the scrape with mock seriousness, pulling out a first aid kit from his car like he'd planned for this moment. SpongeBob bandages. Maya's favorite. "How did you know?" Denise whispered. "Lucky guess. Or maybe I pay attention." Other parents watched with varying degrees of curiosity and judgment. An interracial couple wasn't unusual in Charlotte, but the obvious wealth gap showed in everything from his casual designer clothes to the way he moved through the world without checking price tags or counting quarters for parking meters. Denise felt their stares like heat on her skin. The whispered conversations behind hands, the subtle side eyes from other mothers who wondered what a man like him was doing with a woman like her. "People are watching us," she said quietly as Ethan lifted Maya to the highest monkey bar, his strength casual and appealing. "Let them watch." His voice carried that confidence money could buy, but something in his eyes suggested it cost him too. "Their opinions don't pay our bills or tuck Maya in at night." Our bills. Our daughter. Words that should have terrified her, but somehow felt like coming home. Maya's laughter rang across the playground as she mastered the monkey bars with Ethan's patient coaching. Other children gravitated toward them. Drawn by the kite, the laughter, the infectious joy of adults who weren't checking their phones every 5 minutes. "Mr. Ethan, will you push me on the swings?" Maya called out, and Denise felt that dangerous flutter again. The way her daughter's voice wrapped around his name, like it belonged there. Have you ever been judged for who you chose to love? Tell me in the comments how you handled the stares and whispers. The moment came during snack time. Maya, chocolate chip cookie crumbs on her face, looked up at Ethan with the devastating honesty only children possess. "Are you going to be my new daddy?" The playground noise seemed to fade. Other conversations became distant murmur. Denise felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and something deeper. Fear that his answer would shatter the perfect morning they'd built. The silence stretched too long. Ethan's expression was unreadable, and for a moment, Denise prepared for the gentle letdown, the kind words that would explain why successful men don't sign up for ready-made families with bedtime routines and school plays and tiny shoes by the door. But it wasn't his expression that terrified Denise. It was the way her heart answered yes before her mind could stop it. Because watching him with Maya, seeing the natural way he caught her when she jumped too far or listened to her rambling stories about her imaginary pet dragon, Denise realized she wasn't just falling for a man anymore. She was falling for the idea of a family. The three of them, together. And that thought was more dangerous than any playground equipment Maya could climb. "Well," Ethan said finally, his voice careful but warm, "that depends on what your mama thinks. And whether you want a daddy who can't make pancakes but knows every ice cream truck song in the city." Maya giggled, but Denise heard the deeper message. He was asking permission, respecting boundaries, including her in the decision that would change all their lives. When Maya asked if Ethan was going to be her new daddy, the silence stretched too long. But it wasn't his expression that terrified Denise. It was the way her heart answered yes before her mind could stop it. The second date was supposed to be simple, coffee and a playground. But nothing about Ethan's attention to Maya's scraped knee was simple, and everything about the way other mothers stared was complicated. Sunday afternoon brought unexpected rain and an invitation that changed everything. "Come over," Ethan had texted. "I'll cook. Maya can swim." His penthouse had more square footage than Denise's entire apartment building. But somehow, standing on his terrace overlooking Charlotte's skyline, she felt smaller than ever. Maya pressed her nose against the floor-to-ceiling windows, breath fogging the glass as she counted buildings and looked for her school from 30 floors up. Everything sparkled, the infinity pool, the granite countertops, the view that probably cost more per month than Denise made in 6. "This is where you live," Maya whispered, voice full of wonder rather than intimidation. "This is where I sleep," Ethan corrected, tossing his keys on a table that probably cost more than Denise's car. "Home is different. What's more intimidating, someone's wealth or their genuine interest in your thoughts? Share your experience with feeling out of your league." The kitchen was a masterpiece of modern design, all clean lines and professional appliances that looked like they belonged in restaurants, not homes. Denise expected takeout containers and credit card solutions to Sunday dinner problems. Instead, Ethan rolled up his sleeves and started pulling ingredients from a refrigerator stocked with actual food. "You cook." She couldn't hide her surprise. "My grandmother's recipe for chicken and rice. Only thing that tastes like love when you make it yourself." He paused, suddenly uncertain. "Unless Maya doesn't like." "She loves rice," Denise said quickly, then felt stupid for how eager she sounded. But watching him move around that expensive kitchen with the comfort of someone who'd learned to feed himself long before he could afford private chefs, Denise saw something she hadn't expected. Behind the wealth and designer everything, Ethan was just a man who knew how to make dinner for people he cared about. Maya discovered the pool while they cooked. Not the elegant lap pool she'd imagined, but something designed for actual swimming, with shallow areas perfect for children and pool toys that suggested this wasn't the first time kids had visited. "You have floaties," Maya announced, holding up armbands covered in sea creatures. "For my nephew," Ethan explained to Denise's questioning look. "He's about Maya's age. Visits sometimes with my sister." Relief flooded through her. He knew children. This wasn't charity or novelty. He understood bedtimes and car seats, and the way 7-year-olds asked 400 questions in an hour. The dinner table could seat 12, but they squeezed together at one corner, Maya chattering about her swimming adventures, while Ethan asked questions that proved he'd been listening to every word she'd said over the past 2 dates. "Tell me about your dragon again," he said seriously. "The purple one who eats homework." "Sparkles," Maya giggled. "She only eats math homework because numbers taste bad." Denise watched them together, her daughter animated and confident, this man she barely knew treating a child's imagination like it mattered. When was the last time an adult had entered Maya's world instead of demanding she shrink to fit theirs? After dinner, the routine began without discussion. Maya needed a bath after chlorine and pool adventures. Ethan disappeared and returned with child-safe toiletries, fluffy towels in Maya's size, even a rubber duck that squeaked when squeezed. "How do you have all this?" Denise asked while Maya splashed in the enormous master bathroom. "I pay attention," he said simply. And I hoped you'd say yes when I asked you to stay. Stay. The word hung between them like a question mark. The guest room was bigger than Denise's entire bedroom, with a view of a city that made Maya gasp with delight. Egyptian cotton sheets, blackout curtains, a reading lamp beside the bed like hotels designed for actual comfort rather than profit margins. This is like a princess room, Maya whispered, snuggling into pajamas that smelled like expensive detergent and safety. As they tucked her in, together, like parents, like a team, Maya's sleepy voice drifted up from the pillow. Mama, is this what rich people's houses always feel like? What do they feel like, baby? Warm, Maya yawned. Like hugs. In the hallway outside the guest room, Denise felt Ethan's presence like electricity. They were alone for the first time all evening, Maya's soft breathing, the only sound from behind the closed door. She's amazing, he said quietly. You've done an incredible job. She's everything good about me, Denise whispered back. Everything I got right. His hand found the small of her back. Warm, steady, asking permission without words. She could feel the heat of his palm through her shirt, could smell his cologne mixed with chlorine and the lingering scent of home-cooked dinner. Stay, he said again, voice dropping to something private and urgent. Both of you, stay. For the first time in 3 years, Denise wanted to say yes to something just for herself. Not for Maya's benefit or financial security or practical reasons that made sense on paper. She wanted to stay because his smile made her forget she was tired. Because he looked at Maya like she was a gift instead of a complication. Because standing in his hallway felt more like home than her own apartment ever had. As he walked her to the guest room where Maya slept, his hand found the small of her back. Stay, he whispered, and for the first time in 3 years, Denise wanted to say yes to something just for herself. His penthouse had more square footage than her entire apartment building, but somehow, standing on his terrace overlooking Charlotte skyline, she felt smaller than ever. Monday morning shattered the weekend fantasy with the efficiency of an alarm clock. Denise's phone buzzed at 6 a.m., Maya's school nurse. Fever. Come pick her up immediately. The kind of call that sends single mothers into logistical panic because sick children don't care about work schedules or bills that need paying. I have to go, she whispered to Ethan, who'd been making coffee in that pristine kitchen while she marveled at how normal everything felt until reality crashed the party. I'll drive you, he offered immediately. You don't understand. I have to call in sick, lose a day's pay, find someone to watch her tonight because I can't miss my delivery shift too. This is my life, Ethan. This is what you're signing up for. She said it like a warning, like she was giving him an escape route. Instead, he grabbed his keys. Maya's elementary school sat in a part of Charlotte where chain restaurants outnumber coffee shops and every strip mall had a check-cashing store. The contrast wasn't lost on Denise as Ethan pulled his BMW in a visitor parking between a rusted Honda and a pickup truck held together by duct tape and determination. You sure about this? She asked. About what? Being seen here. With us. His look could have melted steel. Try me. Maya emerged from the nurse's office looking pathetic in that specific way sick children master. Pale, droopy, but perking up the moment she saw Ethan waiting beside her mother. Mr. Ethan, did you come to rescue me? We came together, he said, scooping her up carefully. Team effort. When was the last time someone's simple touch left you breathless? Share your story in the comments. The drive to Denise's apartment complex was 15 minutes through Charlotte's changing landscape, from downtown glass and steel to suburbs that had seen better decades. Strip malls gave way to apartment complexes with names like Garden View and Sunrise Manor that advertise amenities they'd stopped maintaining years ago. Denise's building sat behind a gas station, 3 stories of brick and small dreams. The parking lot needed repaving, the mailboxes needed fixing, and the playground equipment had been temporarily removed for 2 years running. This is home, she said, voice carefully neutral as they climbed stairs that creaked under their weight. Apartment 2B, 700 square feet of careful organization and stubborn pride. Every piece of furniture had a story, thrift store finds, hand-me-downs from relatives, the couch she'd saved 6 months to buy secondhand. Maya's artwork covered the refrigerator and most of one wall. School photos and frames from the dollar store. Books from the library sale stacked on every available surface because Maya was reading above grade level and Denise would buy books before buying groceries if necessary. It was clean. It was organized. It was loved. And next to Ethan's world, it looked exactly like what it was. The best a single mother could do on 2 part-time salaries and determination. Maya's room is through there, Denise said, suddenly seeing everything through his eyes. The patched wall where the previous tenant had put a hole. The window that stuck and had to be propped open with a book. The bathroom door that didn't quite close properly. She braced for pity, for the careful politeness rich people used when confronted with how the other half lived. Instead, Ethan knelt beside Maya's bed, a twin mattress on a frame that had been sturdy once, and listened seriously as she explained each stuffed animal's name and personality. This is Mr. Buttons. He's brave but scared of storms. And this is Princess Sparkle. She's Sparkle's the dragon's cousin. And this one is Mama Bear because she protects everyone. Important job, Ethan agreed solemnly. Every family needs a protector. He helped settle Maya with juice and children's Tylenol, then followed Denise to the kitchen. 3 steps away in an apartment where privacy meant closing doors and whispering. You don't have to stay, she said quietly. I know this isn't. I mean, your world is... My world is empty, he interrupted. Beautiful and expensive and completely empty. He moved through her small space with surprising grace, not bumping into furniture or acting like he needed more room. When he opened her refrigerator looking for juice, she saw him notice everything. The carefully organized leftovers, the stack of yogurt cups Maya loved, the prescription bottle with her name on it that she thought she'd hidden behind the milk. Anxiety medication, she said defensively. Started after Maya's dad left. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes life is overwhelming, he finished gently. Nothing wrong with getting help. The judgment she'd expected never came. Instead, he asked if she had tea, made himself useful organizing Maya's medicine schedule, and sat on her thrift store couch like it was the most comfortable place he'd ever been. This feels more like home than my place, he admitted while Maya napped, and afternoon light slanted through windows that needed new curtains. It feels lived in, loved. It feels small and crowded and like I'm failing her every day, Denise said before she could stop herself. Look around, Ethan said seriously. Really look. Maya's artwork everywhere because you celebrate her creativity. Books stacked up because you prioritize her education. Everything clean and organized because you care about your space. This isn't failure, Denise. This is love making the most of what it has. When Maya woke up feeling better, she demanded they build a fort in the living room using couch cushions and sheets. Ethan threw himself into the project with the enthusiasm of someone who'd never had the chance to build childhood forts. Like this? He asked Maya, holding up a corner of the sheet. No, Mr. Ethan. The roof has to be pointy or the magic won't work. Magic. In her tiny apartment with secondhand furniture and a bathroom door that didn't close right, Maya was teaching a millionaire about magic. As evening approached and Maya's fever stayed down, Ethan made no move to leave. Instead, he ordered dinner from Maya's favorite Chinese place. Nothing fancy, just the kind of neighborhood restaurant that knew your order and threw in extra fortune cookies for regular customers with children. They ate sitting on the living room floor because the fort took up the couch, Maya chattering about feeling better and wanting to go swimming again soon at Mr. Ethan's house. Can we, Mama? Please? I promise I'll be good. You're always good, baby. So we can go. Denise looked at Ethan across takeout containers and a daughter who was already planning their next adventure. He was still here, in her world, making it bigger somehow instead of making her feel smaller. We'll see, she said, but her heart was already saying yes. As they tucked Maya in, their routine now, apparently, she looked up at them with sleepy contentment. I like when you're both here, she mumbled. It feels like a real family. In the hallway, with Maya's breathing the only sound and the city humming beyond thin walls, Ethan pulled Denise close. I want this, he whispered against her hair. All of it. The fever calls, and the tiny kitchen, and Maya's dragon stories, and your anxiety medication, and the way you make 700 square feet feel like everything I've been missing. His hands found her face, thumbs tracing her cheekbones like he was memorizing her features. I want you. Both of you. However this works. The kiss was inevitable. Soft at first, then deeper as 3 days of building tension finally found release. He tasted like possibility and safety and all the things she'd stopped believing in after Maya's father walked away. When they broke apart, breathless and wanting more, Denise felt that familiar flutter of hope mixed with terror. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Good crazy or bad crazy? I don't know yet." But as he kissed her again, backing her gently against the hallway wall, while Maya slept peacefully 10 feet away, Denise thought maybe crazy was exactly what they needed. The brick through her apartment window came with a note, "Last warning." As glass scattered across Maya's homework, Denise made a decision that would change everything. She was done being a victim, but what she planned would either save them or destroy what they'd built. The anonymous message arrived at 3 a.m. with photos of them at dinner and a single line, "Ask her what she really wants from you." Tuesday brought normalcy until it didn't. Maya back to school, Denise back to the medical clinic, Ethan back to board meetings and business calls. They'd settled into something that felt sustainable. Text messages throughout the day, Maya's bedtime stories over video chat when Ethan worked late, weekend plans that included playground visits and swimming lessons. For 2 weeks, it worked. Then the photo appeared in Denise's work email. Not just any photo. The three of them at Fahrenheit that first night, Maya coloring while Ethan and Denise talked across the table like people falling in love. The angle suggested someone had been watching from across the restaurant, waiting for the perfect shot. The subject line read, "Interesting company you're keeping." The message was simple. Gold diggers who use children as bait get what they deserve. Denise's hands shook as she forwarded it to Ethan, then deleted it from her inbox like that could erase the sick feeling in her stomach. His response came immediately. "Don't let them get in your head. Someone's jealous, that's all." But the second email came during lunch break. Same anonymous sender, different approach. This time it was Maya's school schedule. Drop-off times, pick-up routines, after-school program details. Information only someone watching them regularly would know. They know where she goes to school. Denise texted Ethan, no longer caring if her panic showed. He called immediately. "I'm hiring security. Personal protection until we figure out who's behind this." "Security?" Denise's voice cracked. "Ethan, I can't afford. You're not paying for anything. This is happening because of me, because of who I am and what I have. I'm handling it. Have you ever had your happiness threatened by strangers? When did other people's opinions start affecting your choices? Tell me below." The security detail arrived that afternoon. 2 professionals in unmarked cars who made Denise feel both safer and more terrified. Maya thought they were secret agents and waved at them through the apartment window. But safety came with a price. Suddenly, trips to the grocery store required planning. Maya's school had to be notified about approved pickup personnel. Their world, which had been expanding with possibility, started shrinking under the weight of necessary precautions. "This isn't normal," Denise said during their weekly dinner at Ethan's place. Maya was swimming, supervised by one of the security team who'd turn out to have children of her own. "Nothing about my life has ever been normal," Ethan replied, but his jaw was tight with stress. "I should have warned you. Should have prepared you for this part." "What part?" "The part where having money makes you a target. Where people assume the worst about everyone around you. Where loving someone means painting a bullseye on their back." The weight of his world was settling on her shoulders, and Denise wasn't sure she could carry it. That night, after Maya fell asleep in Ethan's guest room, their routine now, staying over more nights than not, the third message arrived. This one came to both their phones simultaneously. Photos of Maya at school, Maya at the playground, Maya getting out of Ethan's car at the apartment complex. Professional quality, taken with expensive equipment by someone who'd been following them for weeks. The message was brief. "Pretty little girl. Be ashamed if something happened to her." Denise dropped her phone like it was on fire. "That's a direct threat," Ethan said, voice deadly calm in the way that meant he was furious beyond expression. "We're calling the police." "And tell them what? That someone took pictures of my daughter? That's not illegal. Threatening a child is illegal." They didn't actually threaten her. They were careful with the wording. Ethan pulled her close on the couch, but for the first time since they'd started this, physical comfort wasn't enough. The fear was too big, too real, too focused on the one person Denise couldn't risk losing. "I think we should slow down," she whispered against his chest. He went very still. "Slow down how? Maybe I shouldn't stay over so much. Maybe Maya, and I need some space to figure out if this is worth the risk." "Worth the risk?" His voice was carefully controlled. "Is that what we are now? A risk assessment? Look at the photos, Ethan. Look at what loving you is doing to my daughter." She pulled away from him, needing distance to think clearly. Someone is watching her walk to school, taking pictures of her playing, using her to get to you, to us. She's 7 years old. She doesn't deserve to live under a microscope because her mother fell for someone whose money makes him a target. "So what are you saying?" Denise met his eyes, hating herself for the words she had to speak. "I'm saying maybe my friends were right. Maybe this is too complicated. Maybe we're from worlds too different to make this work." The silence stretched between them, filled with everything they weren't saying. Finally, Ethan stood up, walked to the window, overlooking the city he'd conquered but couldn't protect them in. "If that's what you want," he said quietly. "It's not what I want. It's what's safe." "Safe for who?" "For Maya. She comes first. She always comes first." He turned back to her then, and the pain in his eyes was almost unbearable. "I would never let anything happen to her. To either of you. You can't promise that. No one can." When Denise asked who would want to hurt them, Ethan's pause lasted too long. "I have enemies," he admitted, "but I never thought they'd target you." The weight of his world was settling on her shoulders, and she wasn't sure she could carry it. The drive back to her apartment happened in loaded silence, Maya sleeping in the back seat while security followed at a discreet distance. At her door, Ethan helped carry Maya upstairs, tuck her in her own bed with the gentle care that had made Denise fall for him in the first place. "This isn't over," he said quietly in her hallway. "Maybe it should be. Do you really believe that?" She couldn't answer, couldn't lie, couldn't tell the truth, couldn't find words for the impossible choice between love and safety. He kissed her forehead, soft and final. "When you figure out what you really want," he said, "call me." The door closed behind him with a quiet click that sounded like ending. Denise sank onto her couch, surrounded by the silence of her small apartment and the weight of choosing fear over hope. Her phone buzzed with one final message from the anonymous sender. "Smart choice. Stay away from him if you know what's good for you." But as she deleted the message, Denise realized with crystal clarity that she'd never been less sure about what was good for her. And in the morning, when Maya asked where Mr. Ethan was, Denise would have to find words to explain why sometimes the people we love most are the ones we have to let go. The email in her work inbox contained her home address, Maya's school schedule, and a threat that made her hands shake. Gold diggers who use children as bait get what they deserve. 3 days of silence stretched between Denise and Ethan like a wound that wouldn't heal. Maya asked about him every morning. "Is Mr. Ethan coming to swim today? Can we call Mr. Ethan and tell him about my spelling test? Why does Mama cry when she thinks I'm not looking?" Denise had no answers that made sense to a 7-year-old who'd tasted what family could feel like and couldn't understand why it had to disappear. The medical clinic felt different now. Co-workers who'd celebrated her catching a good one now whispered in break rooms when they thought she couldn't hear. Not mean whispers, concerned ones, which somehow felt worse. "Maybe it's for the best," Dr. Patterson said during lunch break, voice gentle with the kind of pity Denise had spent years trying to avoid. Men like that, they live in different worlds. Complicated worlds. It wasn't complicated until someone made it complicated, Denise snapped, then immediately felt bad for taking her frustration out on someone who cared. But everything was complicated now. Walking to her car required checking over her shoulder. Maya's teacher had been briefed about stranger danger without explaining why. The security detail was gone, but the fear remained. Then Thursday's email arrived. Not just threats this time. Details. her work scheduled down to lunch breaks, Maya's after-school program pickup times, the route they took walking home from the bus stop. Information that meant someone had been watching for weeks, taking notes, building a file. She gets off the bus at 4:17 p.m. every day, walks the same path through the apartment complex, alone for exactly 3 minutes before you get home from work. Lots can happen in 3 minutes. When does protecting someone become controlling them? Have you ever had to choose between safety and freedom? Drop your thoughts below if you felt trapped by someone else's threats. Denise's hands shook as she forwarded the email to Ethan, breaking 3 days of silence because terror mattered more than pride. He called before she'd even put her phone down. "I'm coming to get you. Both of you. Right now. Ethan, we can't just." They mentioned Maya's walk home. That's specific targeting. That's not random harassment anymore. His voice carried the kind of controlled fury that meant he was past negotiation and into protection mode. "Where's Maya now?" "Still at school. I'm supposed to pick her up in an hour. I'll meet you there. We're getting her together, and then you're both coming home with me until we figure this out." "Home?" You said it like they belonged there. Denise wanted to argue, to insist she could handle this alone, to maintain the independence she'd fought for since Maya's father left. But the email details were too specific, too threatening, too focused on her daughter's vulnerability. "Okay," she whispered. Maya's elementary school parking lot had never looked so exposed. Every car could hide someone watching. Every person could be taking photos. Denise found herself studying faces, checking license plates, jumping at shadows that might be real threats. Ethan's BMW pulled up beside her Honda with precision timing. He got out looking like he hadn't slept since she'd walked away from him. Hair slightly messed, shirt wrinkled, worry lines around his eyes that hadn't been there a week ago. "Any more messages?" he asked without preamble. "Just the one. But Ethan, I can't live like this. Maya can't live like this. She won't have to. We're going to end this." The school doors opened and children poured out in the chaotic rush of Thursday afternoon freedom. Maya spotted them immediately, both parents waiting together, and her face lit up with pure joy. "Mr. Ethan, you came back." She launched herself into his arms with the trust only children possess. "I came back," he confirmed, holding her tight while scanning the parking lot over her head. "How was your day, warrior princess?" "I got a gold star in math, and Tommy shared his cookies at lunch, and Mrs. Henderson said my dragon drawing was very creative." Normal 7-year-old enthusiasm, but Denise saw how Ethan's jaw tightened at Maya's description of her routine day. Someone had been watching these moments, cataloging them, turning innocent childhood into surveillance data. "That's amazing," he said, still holding Maya while his eyes tracked every adult in the vicinity. "Want to come swimming in my house? Your mom and I have some things to talk about." "Can we, Mama? Please." Looking at her daughter's hopeful face, Denise realized she'd been an idiot to think separation would keep Maya safer. The threats weren't going away just because she'd pushed Ethan away. If anything, isolation made them more vulnerable. "Yes, baby. We can go swimming." The drive to Ethan's penthouse felt like a military escort. He followed directly behind her Honda, close enough that anyone watching would see they were together again. His building security suddenly seemed less like luxury and more like necessity. Maya dove into the pool with the enthusiasm of a child who'd missed her favorite playground, but Denise couldn't relax. Every balcony could hide someone with a camera. Every window could conceal watching eyes. "Talk to me," Ethan said, pulling her into his kitchen while Maya swam under the watchful eye of his building's security. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not for me. For her. These people, whoever they are, they're using Maya to get to you. To us." And walking away didn't stop them. No, it didn't. He stepped closer, hands finding her face with the familiar touch she'd missed more than breathing. "I'm sorry this is happening. I'm sorry my world comes with this kind of danger. But I'm not sorry we found each other." The kiss was desperate. 3 days of separation and fear and uncertainty poured into the connection between them. His hands tangled at her hair while she gripped his shirt like he might disappear again. "I missed you," she whispered against his mouth. "I missed you both." This place felt empty without Maya's laughter and your voice calling for bedtime stories. They broke apart at the sound of splashing and Maya's voice calling them to watch her underwater handstand. Normal life interrupted by abnormal circumstances, but somehow that made the normal parts more precious. So what do we do? Denise asked as they settled on pool chairs, watching Maya practice diving for pool toys. We find out who's behind this, and we make them stop. And if we can't, his expression went hard. That's not an option. No one threatens my family. My family. The words hit her like a physical force. Is that what we are? What do you think? Before she could answer, Maya's voice cut through the evening air. Mama, someone's taking pictures of us. They both turned to see a figure on a neighboring balcony, camera with a telephoto lens pointed directly at them. Ethan was moving before Denise could react, pulling out his phone to alert building security while shielding Maya from view. But the photographer was already gone, disappearing behind sliding doors like they'd never been there. Did you see who it was? Ethan asked Maya gently. A lady with short dark hair. She had a really big camera. A lady. Female photographer. Someone who could blend in anywhere, follow them without seeming threatening, get close to Maya without raising immediate red flags. That night, after Maya fell asleep in Ethan's guest room, they sat on his couch reviewing everything. Every email, every photo, every detail that might provide a clue. This isn't random, Denise said, studying the timeline of harassment. It's too organized, too personal. Someone who knows my business schedule, knows your work routine, knows Maya's school, someone close to one of us. The thought hung between them like a bomb waiting to explode. Tomorrow, we hire a private investigator, Ethan said. Professional help. No more trying to handle this alone. Denise nodded, but exhaustion was winning the battle against fear. She curled against his side on the couch, feeling safe for the first time in days. I'm sorry I pushed you away, she whispered. I'm sorry my world came with these complications. Your world also came with you. That makes the complications worth fighting. He kissed the top of her head, arms tightening around her. We're going to figure this out. Together. The brick through her apartment window came with a note, last warning. As glass scattered across Maya's homework, Denise made a decision that would change everything. She was done being a victim, but what she planned would either save them or destroy what they'd built. She hired the private investigator with money she'd been saving from Maya's college fund, because sometimes you have to fight for your future by risking everything you've worked for. Friday morning brought determination and a plan. The private investigator's office sat between a bail bondsman and a tax preparation service in a strip mall that had seen better decades. Not the kind of place Denise would normally feel comfortable, but nothing about her life was normal anymore. Linda Rodriguez had 20 years of experience tracking down cheating spouses and insurance fraud. Short, no nonsense, with eyes that missed nothing and a handshake that meant business. Someone's been watching you for weeks, Linda said, spreading the printed emails and photos across her desk. This level of surveillance takes time, money, and access to your personal information. Access how? Someone who knows your routines, your work schedule, your daughter's school. Either they're following you extensively, or they have inside information. The thought made Denise's stomach turn. Inside information meant someone she trusted was feeding details to whoever wanted to hurt them. What do you need from me? List of everyone who has access to your personal information. Work colleagues, family members, friends, neighbors. Anyone who knows your schedule or Maya's. That's a lot of people. Start with the ones who knew about Ethan, who knew you were dating someone wealthy. Denise's mind raced through conversations, casual mentions, proud moments when she'd shared news of her happiness. How many people had she told about Ethan? How many had seemed supportive while maybe feeling something else entirely? What would you risk to protect the people you love? Have you ever had to be stronger than you thought possible? Share your story of unexpected courage. The list took 2 hours to compile. Co-workers who'd celebrated her relationship. Neighbors who'd seen Ethan's car in the apartment parking lot. Maya's teacher who'd been updated about emergency contacts. Friends who'd helped her pick out clothes for their first dates. I need you to think about anyone who seemed less than happy about your relationship, Linda said. Jealousy is a powerful motivator. That narrowed the list considerably. Sarah from work had made comments about lucky catches and some people having all the luck. Dr. Patterson's nurse had asked pointed questions about Ethan's intentions. Even Denise's upstairs neighbor had made snide remarks about rich men and their toys. But none of that felt malicious enough to explain professional surveillance and direct threats. There's something else, Linda said, studying the photos more carefully. These weren't taken by an amateur. Professional equipment, good positioning, clear focus. Whoever's behind this hired someone who knows what they're doing. So we're looking for someone with money. Money and motivation. That afternoon, Linda called with preliminary findings. The emails were sent from public computers, library branches, coffee shops with Wi-Fi, hotel business centers. Whoever's doing this knows how to avoid digital traces. Dead end. Not necessarily. There's a pattern to the locations. All within a 5-mile radius of Ethan's office building. Ethan met them at Linda's office that evening, bringing corporate security files and financial records from his company. If someone was targeting him through Denise, they needed to understand who might have professional reasons to hurt him. Any business rivals with personal grudges? Linda asked. A few, but nothing that would justify targeting a 7-year-old. What about personal relationships gone wrong? Ex-girlfriends, former friends, family members who feel wronged. Ethan's expression darkened. There might be someone. The name hit the room like a physical force, Rebecca Mills. Ethan's former business partner, bought out 2 years ago when their company restructured. She'd fought the buyout, claimed he'd stolen her ideas, threatened legal action that never materialized. She knows my schedule because she helped create it, Ethan said slowly. She knows my building, my routines, my security protocols. Why would she target Denise? Linda asked. Because she always believed we'd end up together. We dated briefly years ago, before the business partnership. She never accepted that it was over. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. A woman scorned, with inside knowledge and professional connections. Someone who could hire surveillance, coordinate harassment, and stay hidden behind layers of professional competence. We need proof, Linda said. Solid evidence connecting her to the emails and photos. How do we get that? Linda smiled grimly. We give her something irresistible to photograph. The plan was simple and terrifying. Ethan would take Denise and Maya somewhere public, romantic, and obvious. The kind of scene Rebecca wouldn't be able to resist capturing if she was still obsessed with documenting their relationship. You're using us as bait, Denise said. I'm using her obsession against her, Linda corrected. But only if you're comfortable with the risk. Looking at Maya, coloring quietly in the corner of the investigator's office, Denise felt the fierce protectiveness that had gotten her through 3 years of single parenthood. What do you need us to do? Saturday evening found them at Charlotte's most romantic restaurant, the revolving rooftop place where proposals happened and anniversaries were celebrated. Maya thought it was an adventure. Denise knew it was a trap. Is someone watching us? Maya asked, cutting her chicken with careful 7-year-old precision. Maybe, Ethan said honestly. But if they are, we have people watching them too. Linda's surveillance team was positioned throughout the restaurant and surrounding buildings. If Rebecca or her hired photographer showed up, they'd be documented, photographed, and finally caught in the act. The evening felt surreal. Romantic dinner interrupted by frequent glances toward windows and balconies. Maya's innocent chatter mixed with adult awareness that they were performing for an audience they couldn't see. There, Ethan said quietly, nodding toward a building across the street. Telephoto lens. 7th floor. Denise forced herself not to turn and look. Instead, she reached across the table for Ethan's hand, letting their fingers intertwine while Maya described her latest art project. We need to give them something worth photographing, she said. Like what? Her answer surprised them both. Like this. She leaned across the table and kissed him. Not the careful, appropriate kiss of people conscious of being watched, but the deep, passionate kiss of a woman claiming her man in front of anyone who might be watching. Maya giggled. Mama's being mushy. But when they broke apart, Ethan's eyes held surprise and something deeper. That felt real, he said quietly. It was real. The photographer across the street was definitely active now, camera flashing repeatedly, documenting every moment of their family dinner with professional intensity. Got her. Linda's voice crackled through the earpiece Ethan wore. Professional equipment, expensive position, clear view of your table. She's been there for 20 minutes. Can you identify her? Working on it. But the positioning and timing match our profile perfectly. They finished dinner with growing excitement, not because they enjoyed being watched, but because they were finally fighting back. For weeks, they'd been victims of someone else's obsession. Tonight, they were turning the tables. The walk to Ethan's car was deliberately slow, giving the photographer time to capture every angle. Maya skipped between them, holding both their hands, looking like the perfect family unit Rebecca apparently couldn't stand to see. Did we get enough? Denise asked as they drove home. More than enough. Linda's team got clear photos of the photographer, license plate of her vehicle, and enough evidence to take to the police. So, it's over. It's the beginning of the end. But as they pulled into Ethan's garage, Maya's sleepy voice from the back seat carried an observation that made both adults freeze. The lady with the camera looked sad, she said. Like she was crying while she took pictures. A crying photographer. Someone whose obsession came from pain rather than just anger. The name on the investigator's report made Ethan's face go white. I know who's behind this, he said, voice deadly quiet. And she's someone I trusted completely. But when he reached for his phone to confront them, Denise stopped him. No, this time we're playing chess, not checkers. They say the best revenge is success, but sometimes the best protection is letting your enemy think they're winning while you gather evidence of their crimes. Sunday morning brought the call they've been waiting for. It's Rebecca Mills. Linda confirmed over speakerphone, while Maya ate pancakes and drew pictures of swimming pools. Former business partner, former girlfriend, current stalker with professional photography equipment and too much free time. The photos from Saturday night's dinner were clear. Rebecca on the 7th floor balcony, expensive camera with telephoto lens, tears streaming down her face as she documented their family happiness. Pathetic and criminal, Ethan said grimly. But we still need more evidence. Photos of her taking photos aren't enough for harassment charges. We need to connect her directly to the emails and threats. Ow! Linda's smile held no warmth. We make her confess. The plan required acting skills Denise wasn't sure she possessed. Rebecca needed to believe she'd won, that her campaign of terror had successfully driven a wedge between Ethan and Denise. You want me to pretend to break up with him? Denise asked, publicly, dramatically, in a way that feeds her obsession and makes her want to gloat. And then Ethan contacts her, old friends catching up, lets her comfort him through his heartbreak, gets her to admit what she's done. Have you ever had to pretend to hate someone you loved to protect them? When has deception been your only weapon against manipulation? Tell me your story. The staged breakup happened at Charlotte's busiest coffee shop on Monday afternoon. Ethan chose the location, outdoor seating, heavy foot traffic, impossible to miss if someone was watching. They'd rehearsed the scene, but it still felt like torture. I can't do this anymore, Denise said, voice carrying across the patio as customers tried not to stare. Maya and I deserve better than being targets because of your enemies. You think I wanted this? Ethan shot back, playing his role perfectly. You think I chose to have my life turned upside down by someone else's obsession? I think you chose money and power over safety, over family. The words tasted like poison, but Maya was safely at school and Linda's surveillance team was documenting everything from 3 different angles. Fine, Ethan said, standing abruptly. If that's how you feel, that's how I feel. He walked away without looking back, leaving Denise sitting alone at the table with cold coffee and an Oscar-worthy performance of heartbreak. The coffee shop buzzed with whispered conversations about the dramatic breakup they'd just witnessed. Someone was probably already posting about it on social media. Perfect. Linda called that evening. Rebecca was there, photographed the whole thing from across the street. She looked like Christmas morning. Phase 2. Tomorrow. Ethan reaches out to his old friend for drinks. Lonely, heartbroken, needing someone who understands him. And I hide in the booth behind them with recording equipment. You hide in the booth behind them with recording equipment. Tuesday night at the upscale bar, where Charlotte's business elite gathered to make deals and nurse expensive whiskey. Rebecca arrived 15 minutes early, dressed like she was auditioning for the role of perfect consolation prize. Denise watched from her concealed position as Ethan walked in looking appropriately dejected. The embrace Rebecca gave him lasted too long, her hands lingering on his chest like she was claiming territory. "I heard about you and that woman," Rebecca said as they settled into the booth directly in front of Denise's hiding spot. "I'm sorry it didn't work out. Are you?" Ethan's voice carried just the right note of bitter curiosity. "Of course I am. I want you to be happy." "Do you?" "Because someone's been making my life hell for the past month. Someone who knew exactly how to hurt the people I care about." Rebecca's laugh sounded forced. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm asking directly. Did you hire someone to harass Denise and Maya?" The silence stretched long enough for Denise to worry their plan had failed. Then Rebecca's voice came through clearly, recorded by equipment sophisticated enough to capture every nuance. "She was wrong for you, Ethan. Completely wrong. A single mother with no education, no class, no understanding of your world. She was using you. That's not your decision to make. Someone had to make you see reason. Confession number 1, recorded and documented. So you did hire someone. I hired a professional to document what kind of person she really was. Show you how she was using that child to manipulate your emotions. By threatening a 7-year-old? Rebecca's voice got defensive. No one threatened anyone. We simply made it clear that gold diggers have consequences. We, the photographer I hired. Very professional. Very discreet. Confession number 2. And the emails? The detailed surveillance of Maya's school schedule. Research. Due diligence. You needed to understand what kind of situation you were getting involved in. Ethan's voice dropped to something dangerous. You researched a 7-year-old's daily routine. You had someone follow a child. I was protecting you. From what? From being happy. From being used by someone who saw dollar signs instead of the man I've always. She caught herself before finishing the sentence. But the recording equipment caught everything. The man you've always what, Rebecca? The man I've always loved. There it was. The real confession. The motivation behind weeks of terror and harassment. We dated for 3 months, 5 years ago. And you chose business over us. Chose success over love. But I waited, Ethan. I built my career, made myself worthy of your world, and I waited. And when I found someone who made me happy, you found someone completely inappropriate. She doesn't understand your life, your responsibilities, your position in this community. She showed up to a business dinner with a child. She showed up as herself. Honest, authentic, real. She showed up as a manipulator, using her daughter as emotional leverage. The venom in Rebecca's voice was crystal clear now, recorded for posterity and legal evidence. So you decided to destroy it. I decided to save you from making the biggest mistake of your life. By terrorizing a child. By showing you the truth about what happens when your worlds collide. Some people don't belong in your life, Ethan. And some people will do whatever it takes to protect you from bad decisions. Ethan stood up abruptly. Stay away from me, Rebecca. Stay away from Denise. Stay away from Maya. If I see you anywhere near my family again. Your family? Rebecca's laugh was bitter. You think she'll take you back after the way you treated her today? You think she'll trust you again? That's not your concern. Everything about your happiness is my concern. As Rebecca confessed everything to what she thought was a private conversation with Ethan, she had no idea Denise was recording every word from the next booth. But when Rebecca mentioned eliminating the problem permanently, both their hearts stopped. This wasn't just about harassment anymore. But Denise had heard enough. More than enough. Because Rebecca's final words, spoken as Ethan walked away, were captured with perfect clarity. If she won't stay away voluntarily, then we'll have to eliminate the problem permanently. Eliminate the problem permanently. That wasn't harassment. That was a direct threat of violence. Denise's hands shook as she stopped the recording, but her heart was steel. They had her, finally completely legally. Now it was time to make Rebecca Mills pay for every sleepless night, every moment of fear, every tear Maya had cried asking why the bad people were taking pictures. The truth came out like a dam bursting. Months of calculated attacks, corporate espionage, and a woman so obsessed with control she'd terrorized a child to get what she wanted. Wednesday morning brought justice in handcuffs. Charlotte Mecklenburg police arrested Rebecca Mills at her upscale apartment while she was planning her next move. A move that included detailed maps of Maya's school and notes about Denise's work schedule that made the harassment charges look like practice for something much worse. Stalking, criminal harassment, terroristic threats, and conspiracy to commit assault, Detective Martinez read from the warrant. No relation to Denise, but the name felt like a good omen. Linda Rodriguez stood beside Denise and Ethan in the police station, watching through one-way glass as Rebecca processed the reality of consequences. No longer the composed business professional, she looked small and broken in the orange jumpsuit. The recording was perfect, Detective Martinez said. Clear confession, direct threats, admission of ongoing conspiracy. Plus the evidence we found in her apartment. Surveillance photos, detailed schedules, contact information for the photographer she hired. What about the photographer? Denise asked. Arrested this morning. Turns out she has a history of this kind of work. Corporate espionage, harassment campaigns, stalking documentation. Rebecca wasn't her first client. The relief felt overwhelming. For weeks, they'd lived under the cloud of invisible threats and faceless enemies. Now their tormentor had a name, a face, and a jail cell. What happens next? Ethan asked. Court hearings, formal charges, restraining orders. She won't be bothering your family again. Your family. The detective said it like it was obvious, natural, already established fact. Have you ever discovered strength you didn't know you had? When has surviving something difficult shown you who you really are? Share your transformation story. Outside the police station, Charlotte's afternoon sun felt different, brighter, warmer, full of possibilities instead of hidden threats. Maya was at school, safely unaware that the bad lady with the camera was now behind bars where she belonged. I can't believe it's over, Denise said, leaning against Ethan's car in the parking lot. Believe it. She can't hurt you anymore. Can't hurt Maya. What about your business? She was your partner. Former partner. And after this, she'll be lucky if she can get a job anywhere in Charlotte's tech community. They drove to Maya's school together. No security escort, no checking over shoulders, just two parents picking up their daughter like normal families did every day. Maya bounded out of the building with her usual enthusiasm, backpack bouncing as she ran toward their cars. Both my parents came, she announced to anyone listening. Look, everyone, both my parents. Both my parents. Not Mama and Mr. Ethan anymore. Parents. The shift felt seismic and completely natural at the same time. How was school, warrior princess? Ethan asked, scooping her up for a hug. Tommy lost a tooth at lunch, and the tooth fairy only gives quarters now because of inflation. What's inflation? Adult stuff, Denise laughed. Tell us about the tooth. They drove to Ethan's place with Maya chattering about loose teeth and playground politics, normal childhood concerns that felt precious after weeks of fear. Are we staying for swimming? Maya asked as they pulled into the parking garage. We're staying, Ethan said, and something in his voice made Denise look at him sharply. Staying how? Staying like this is home now. Like we belong here. Together. That evening, while Maya swam laps with the determination of someone making up for lost pool time, Denise found herself really looking at Ethan's penthouse for the first time without fear clouding her vision. It was beautiful, yes. Expensive, obviously. But more than that, it had become theirs over the past month. Maya's artwork on the refrigerator. Her favorite snacks in the pantry. Denise's coffee mug in the dishwasher and her book on the nightstand in Ethan's bedroom. When had that happened? When had his space become their space? You're thinking loud, Ethan said, joining her on the balcony while Maya performed elaborate diving techniques for their entertainment. I'm thinking about how this became home without me noticing. Is that a problem? I don't know yet. He pulled her closer, arms wrapping around her waist as they watched their daughter play in water that reflected the city lights. What would it take to make you know? To make you sure? The question hung between them like a bridge. She could cross it or stay safely on her side, but standing in the middle wasn't an option anymore. Ask me again in a month, she said. When the adrenaline wears off and we know what normal feels like. Deal. But even as she said it, Denise knew her heart had already decided. This was home. These were her people. This was the family she'd been afraid to hope for. The phone call came during Maya's bedtime routine, both parents taking turns reading chapters from her current favorite book about a dragon who solved math problems with friendship. Ms. Martinez? The voice belonged to Detective Martinez. I wanted to update you on Rebecca Mills' case. Denise stepped into the hallway while Ethan continued reading about dragon mathematics. What's the update? She's been denied bail. The judge considered her a flight risk and a continuing threat. But there's something else you should know. What? She had plans. Detailed plans. Maps of your apartment complex, your work schedule, Maya's school pickup routine. This was escalating beyond harassment. The words hit like ice water. Escalating how? We found evidence suggesting she was planning to kidnap Maya. Kidnap Maya. The world tilted sideways. The good news is she's locked up and can't hurt anyone. The bad news is this was more serious than we initially thought. After the detective hung up, Denise stood in Ethan's hallway trying to process the magnitude of what they'd escaped. Someone had been planning to take Maya. Not just harass them. Not just make their lives difficult. Take her daughter. Everything okay? Ethan appeared in the doorway, concern written across his face. Rebecca was planning to kidnap Maya. His expression went from concern to fury in the space of a heartbeat. When? They don't know. But soon. She had everything mapped out. He pulled her close, holding her while she shook with delayed reaction to a threat that was over but felt newly terrifying. She's locked up, he said firmly. She can't hurt Maya. She can't hurt either of you. But she tried. She was going to. She was going to fail. Because we figured it out first. Because Maya has two parents who won't let anything happen to her. Two parents. He said it again, like it was established fact. Ethan, I love her, he interrupted. I love Maya like she's mine. I love you like you're my whole world. And I will never let anyone hurt my family again. My family. Standing in his hallway, wrapped in his arms, with Maya's voice drifting from the bedroom as she demanded one more chapter about dragon adventures. Denise finally understood what home felt like. As reporters shouted questions about their relationship, Ethan turned to Denise with something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Not just love or admiration, but recognition. Ready to show them who we really are? He asked. Her answer would define everything that came next. The news broke on Thursday morning like a wildfire nobody could contain. Charlotte's tech elite caught in a stalking scandal that had all the elements of a perfect storm. Millionaire CEO's ex-partner arrested for stalking single mother and child. The headline screamed across every local news website. By noon, the story had legs. By evening, it had wings. Denise found out when her phone started buzzing with calls from reporters who'd somehow gotten her number. Questions about her relationship with Ethan, about Rebecca's harassment, about what it felt like to be targeted by a jealous business rival. No comment, she said for the 15th time before turning off her phone entirely. Maya's school called next. Principal Henderson, voice carefully neutral, explaining that reporters had been asking questions about Maya, about her family situation, about whether the school had adequate security measures. Should I be worried? Denise asked. We're handling it. But you might want to consider keeping Maya home tomorrow. Let this die down. Let this die down. Like media attention was weather that would eventually pass. Ethan arrived at her apartment that evening looking like he'd been through a blender. Hair disheveled, shirt wrinkled, the kind of exhaustion that came from fighting battles on multiple fronts. How bad is it? Denise asked. Bad. My company's stock dropped 12% today. The board called an emergency meeting. Rebecca's arrest is being painted as a corporate scandal instead of what it actually was, a stalking case. Maya looked up from her homework, brown eyes serious beyond her 7 years. Are we in trouble because of the bad lady? No, baby, Denise said quickly. The bad lady is in trouble because she made bad choices. But people are talking about us on TV. How do you explain media attention to a child who just wanted to swim and draw dragons? When did a 7-year-old's world become fodder for public consumption? The evening news segment was worse than they'd imagined. Grainy photos of them at dinner, Maya's face thankfully blurred for privacy. But the story angle was brutal. Wealthy CEO, single mother, and the obsessed ex who couldn't let go. They made it sound like a reality show instead of a family terrorized by someone's delusions. They're making us look like characters in a soap opera, Denise said, watching the segment with growing horror. People love drama more than truth, Ethan replied grimly. The phone interviews were optional, his publicist had explained. They could stay quiet, let the story run its course, hope it faded into next week's news cycle. Or they could control the narrative. Friday morning brought a decision that would change everything. We're going to tell our side, Ethan announced over breakfast while Maya ate cereal and hummed to herself, blissfully unaware of the media storms swirling around their family. Tell our side how? Television interview. Respected journalist. Live broadcast. No editing. We tell the truth about what happened, about who we are, about why this matters. The thought of cameras, of questions about her personal life broadcast to strangers, made Denise's stomach turn. I don't know if I can do that. You can do anything, he said with complete conviction. You survived 3 years of single parenthood, fought off a stalker, and protected Maya through all of it. Television cameras are nothing compared to what you've already handled. Maya looked up from her cereal. Will I be on TV too? No, baby. This is grown-up stuff. Can I watch you on TV? The innocence of the question broke something open in Denise's chest. Maya saw this as an adventure, not a threat. Her daughter had more courage than she did. Yes, she said, decision made. You can watch Mama and Mr. Ethan on TV. The interview was scheduled for Sunday evening. Prime time, live broadcast, no takebacks or do-overs. Just them, their truth, and whatever consequences came from telling it. As reporters shouted questions outside Ethan's building, he turned to Denise with something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Not just love or determination, but recognition. Ready to show them who we really are? He asked. Her answer would define everything that came next. Sunday evening arrived with the weight of consequences nobody could predict. 2 people about to bare their hearts on live television while a city watched and judged. The studio felt smaller than Denise had imagined, all bright lights and camera equipment that hummed with electric energy. Maya was safely at Ethan's sister's house, building blanket forts and eating pizza while her parents faced the kind of scrutiny most people only nightmared about. Remember, the producer said for the 3rd time, this is live television. Whatever you say goes directly to air. No editing, no second chances. Channel 9's evening anchor, Patricia Williams, had built her reputation on asking tough questions without crucifying her subjects. Professional, but fair. Exactly what they needed. We're here tonight with Ethan Cross, CEO of Crosstech Solutions, and Denise Martinez, the single mother at the center of a stalking case that has rocked Charlotte's business community. Patricia began, looking directly into the camera with the confidence of 20 years in broadcast journalism. The red light blinked on. Live television. No turning back. Ethan, let's start with the basics. How did you and Denise meet? Simple question. Complex answer. Blind date, Ethan said, relaxing slightly as they settled into the rhythm of conversation. My coworker thought we'd be good together. She was right. Denise, what was your first impression? Here it was. The moment to set the record straight about gold diggers and motivations and single mothers who dared to dream beyond their circumstances. I was terrified, Denise said honestly. I showed up to dinner with my 7-year-old daughter because my babysitter canceled, and I thought he'd run for the hills. Instead, he asked for crayons. He asked for crayons? For Maya, so she could color while we talked. That's when I knew he was different. Patricia leaned forward slightly. Different how? Most people see Maya as a complication. Ethan saw her as part of the package, part of what made me who I am. When did telling your truth become an act of courage? Drop a heart if you've ever had to defend your right to love someone. The harassment began shortly after you started dating. Can you describe what that was like? This was a hard part. The part where they had to explain fear without sounding weak, threats without sounding dramatic. Someone was watching us, Denise said, voice steady despite the memory of terror. Taking pictures of Maya at school, following our routines, sending emails with details about our daily lives that only someone conducting surveillance would know. What kind of details? My work schedule, Maya's pickup times, the route we walked home from the bus stop. Information that meant someone had been studying us like we were targets instead of people. Ethan's jaw tightened. They threatened a 7-year-old girl, used her safety as leverage to try to control our relationship. Rebecca Mills, your former business partner and ex-girlfriend, has been charged with stalking and making terroristic threats. Were you surprised to learn she was behind the harassment? The pause lasted 3 seconds too long. On live television, 3 seconds felt like an eternity. I was heartbroken, Ethan said finally. Rebecca and I had a brief relationship years ago, and when it ended, I thought we'd managed to remain professional colleagues. Finding out she'd been harboring romantic feelings all this time, that she'd turned those feelings into obsession and violence. It felt like a betrayal of everything I thought I knew about her. Denise, how did this affect your relationship with Ethan? Truth time. The moment to admit how close they'd come to letting fear win. Almost walked away, Denise said quietly. The harassment was escalating, Maya was being threatened, and I started thinking maybe it would be safer to end things before someone got hurt. What changed your mind? Ethan didn't let me face it alone. We hired a private investigator, gathered evidence, fought back instead of running away. And I realized that the people trying to tear us apart were doing it because what we had was worth tearing apart. Patricia's expression softened slightly. What do you want people to understand about your relationship? Denise looked at Ethan, finding strength in his steady presence. We're not a fairy tale. We're not Cinderella and Prince Charming. We're two people who found each other and decided that love was worth fighting for, even when fighting got complicated. Ethan, your company's stock has taken a hit since this story broke. Any regrets about Rebecca's actions? Yes. About falling in love with Denise and Maya? Never. The conviction in his voice carried across the airwaves with the force of absolute truth. What's next for you both? The question hung in the studio air, waiting for an answer that would define their future. Ethan reached for Denise's hand, their fingers intertwining on live television while Charlotte watched. We're building a family, he said simply. Not the traditional way, not the easy way, but the real way. Maya, Denise, and me. Together. Any final thoughts? Denise looked directly into the camera, speaking to everyone who judged them, doubted them, or tried to tear them apart. Single mothers aren't looking for rescue. We're looking for partnership. Maya, and I don't need someone to complete us. We're already complete. But we chose to share our completeness with someone who sees our family as a blessing, not a burden. The interview ended with handshakes and gratitude, but the real test would come in the hours and days that followed. Public opinion, social media reactions, the court of public judgment that could make or break reputations. As they left the studio, Ethan's phone was already buzzing with messages. Some supportive, some critical, all passionate. No regrets? He asked as they walked to his car. Ask me tomorrow, Denise said, when we see how the world reacted to our truth. But even as she said it, she knew the answer. They'd told their story honestly, defended their love publicly, and refused to let other people's fears define their happiness. Whatever came next, 3 months after the interview aired, life had settled into something that looked surprisingly normal. If normal included occasional photographers and people who recognized them at grocery stores. Christmas morning brought snow to Charlotte, and a 7-year-old who believed in magic with a fierce conviction only children possess. Santa came. Maya's voice echoed through Ethan's penthouse at 6 a.m., followed by the thunder of bare feet, racing toward the living room where presents waited under a tree that touched the 12-foot ceiling. Denise found Ethan already awake in the kitchen, making coffee with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned to function on Maya's standard time. She's been up since 5, he said, kissing her forehead. I heard her checking to see if Santa had arrived. And He definitely arrived. The living room looked like Christmas had exploded in the best possible way. Packages wrapped in paper Maya had helped choose a new bike that had required assembly until 2 a.m., art supplies that would fuel dragon drawings for months. But the small velvet box tucked behind the tree wasn't for Maya. "This one's for Mama," Maya announced, playing present distributor with the seriousness of someone managing international logistics. For Mr. Ethan, the box was small, elegant, and absolutely terrifying in its implications. "Maya, why don't you open your big present first?" Ethan suggested, voice casual despite the tension radiating from his shoulders. "Can I? Really?" 20 minutes of wrapping paper chaos later, Maya was testing the limits of bike safety in the penthouse hallway while Denise held a ring box she hadn't opened. "You know," she said quietly, "most people don't propose on Christmas morning with a 7-year-old as witness. Most people don't have Maya as a daughter. She's not your daughter, isn't she?" The question hung between them like a bridge neither of them had been brave enough to cross until this moment. "Ethan, open it first. Then tell me all the reasons why it's complicated." Inside the velvet box sat a ring that managed to be stunning without being ostentatious. Classic elegance that whispered rather than shouted. The kind of ring that said forever without demanding attention in grocery store checkout lines. "It's beautiful. It's a question." Maya crashed into the couch between them, bike helmet askew and cheeks flushed with Christmas morning joy. "Mama, why are you crying?" "Happy tears, baby. What's in the box?" Have you ever had your whole future hinge on a moment you couldn't control? When has someone else's innocence forced you to be brave? Share your story of unexpected courage. Denise looked at Maya, then at Ethan, then at the ring that represented everything she'd been afraid to want. "It's a ring, Maya. A very special ring. Like princess rings? Something like that. Are you going to wear it?" The question came from a child, but the weight of it filled the room. Maya's eyes moved between her mother and the man who'd become her constant companion, her swimming teacher, her bedtime story partner. "That depends," Denise said carefully. "On what?" "On whether you think Mr. Ethan should be part of our family officially." Maya's expression grew serious in the way children approached life-changing decisions. "Would he be my real daddy then?" Ethan's voice was rough with emotion. "Would you want me to be?" "Well," Maya said, considering with 7-year-old logic, "you already help with my homework and know how I like my pancakes, and you don't get mad when I splash water everywhere. So you're already like a daddy. It would just be official." "Official," Denise repeated. "Official," Maya confirmed. "Like how I'm officially in 2nd grade, not just pretending." Out of the mouths of babes came wisdom that cut through months of adult anxiety and overthinking. "So," Ethan asked, looking at Denise with hope and terror warring in his eyes. "So ask me properly." He dropped to one knee right there on the living room floor, ring box in one hand, the other reaching for Maya's fingers. "Denise Martinez," he said solemnly, "will you marry me? Will you let me be Maya's official daddy? Will you both please make me the luckiest man in Charlotte?" The tears came before the words could form. "Yes. Yes to all of it. Yes to all of it." Maya erupted in cheers and threw herself into their group hug, bike helmet bonking against both their heads as the ring slipped onto Denise's finger with perfect fit. "We're going to be a real family," Maya announced to the Christmas tree, the city skyline, and anyone else who might be listening. "We already were a real family," Denise said, admiring the way the ring caught Charlotte's winter sunlight. "Now we're just making it official, like how I'm officially in 2nd grade. Exactly like that." As Maya resumed her exploration of Christmas presents, chattering about planning their wedding and whether she could invite her whole class, Denise found herself staring at the ring on her finger. 3 months ago, she'd been a single mother working 2 jobs and hoping for something better. Today, she was engaged to a man who loved her daughter like his own and saw their family as the best gift he'd ever received. "Second thoughts?" Ethan asked, following her gaze to the sparkling diamond. "Third and fourth thoughts, but all good ones. Even about joining the Charlotte Society pages permanently. Especially about that." Maya's going to love having her picture in the paper wearing fancy dresses. They watch their daughter, demonstrate bike tricks that would give any parent heart attacks, and Denise realized the scariest part was over. Not the proposal, not the media attention, not even the wedding planning that lay ahead. The scariest part had been believing she deserved this happiness, believing Maya deserved this father, believing they were worth fighting for. Now that she believed it, everything else was just details. Beautiful, complicated, wonderful details. 6 months later, Charlotte's social event of the season wasn't happening at a country club or historic mansion. It was taking place in the community center where Maya went to after-school programs, surrounded by people who'd watched their love story unfold in real time. "You sure about this location?" Ethan asked for the third time as they surveyed the decorated gymnasium that had been transformed into something magical. "I'm sure about everything," Denise replied, adjusting Maya's flower girl dress for the 100th time. "This is where we belong, with the people who've been rooting for us from the beginning." The guest list told the story of their journey. Dr. Patterson and the medical clinic staff who'd celebrated every milestone. Maya's teachers who'd provided extra security during the stalking crisis. Linda Rodriguez, the private investigator who'd become an unlikely family friend. Even Detective Martinez, off-duty and looking proud. Charlotte's elite were noticeably absent, and that felt exactly right. 5 minutes, Maya announced, peeking around the corner with the authority of someone who'd appointed herself wedding coordinator. "Everyone's here, and Father Miguel says we can start whenever you're ready." Father Miguel from St. Catherine's, who'd agreed to perform the ceremony despite none of them being regular parishioners, because he believed love was worth celebrating regardless of circumstances. The music started. Not traditional wedding marches, but Maya's favorite song from the Disney movie about dragons, because she negotiated for it with the determination of a future lawyer. Maya walked down the aisle first, scattering flower petals with theatrical flair, while the community center erupted in gentle laughter and appreciation. She took her role seriously but joyfully, waving at friends in the audience and stopping to hug her teacher before taking her place at the altar. Then Denise appeared in the doorway. The dress wasn't designer. She'd found it at a boutique that specialized in second weddings and practical budgets. But it fit perfectly, elegant without being fussy, beautiful without being pretentious. The kind of dress that said this was about the marriage, not the wedding. Ethan's expression when he saw her made every anxiety about location and guest lists and social expectations disappear. He looked at her like she was everything he'd ever wanted wrapped in white lace and walking toward forever. "Mama looks like a princess," Maya whispered loudly, causing another ripple of laughter through their chosen family of friends and colleagues. "She looks like home," Ethan whispered back, and those words carried across the microphone to fill the decorated gymnasium with the kind of truth that made people believe in love stories. When did you last witness love that made you believe in forever? Drop a heart if you've seen real love triumph over impossible odds. The ceremony itself was brief and personal. Vows written from the heart rather than borrowed from tradition. Promises that acknowledged the complications of blended families and the courage required to choose love despite public scrutiny. "Denise," Ethan said, voice carrying clearly through the room, "you and Maya didn't just change my life. You showed me what life was supposed to feel like. I promise to love you both, protect you both, and build a family with you that's stronger than anything that tries to tear it apart." "Ethan," Denise replied, "we didn't rescue us. You joined us. You saw our family as complete and chose to make it bigger. I promise to love you, trust you, and never let fear make our decisions for us again. Do you, Maya Elena Martinez, accept Ethan as your father, to love and respect, and probably ask for ice cream too many times?" Maya giggled at Father Miguel's addition to the traditional ceremony. "Edo." And he already said yes to the ice cream thing. The rings were exchanged with Maya serving as official ring bearer, taking her job so seriously that she double-checked each ring before handing it over. "By the power vested in me by the state of North Carolina, I now pronounce you husband and wife and officially a family of 3. Ethan, you may kiss your bride. The kiss was soft, sweet, and interrupted by Maya throwing flower petals at them with enthusiasm that bordered on assault. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Mr. and Mrs. Cross and their daughter Maya. The community center erupted in cheers as they walked back down the aisle. Not as the people they'd been when this story started, but as the family they'd chosen to become despite every obstacle thrown in their way. The reception happened right there in the same space, with potluck contributions from friends and a wedding cake made by the bakery where Denise had once delivered DoorDash orders. Simple food, real conversations, and dancing to a playlist Maya had helped create. No regrets? Dr. Patterson asked during the father-daughter dance, watching Ethan twirl Maya around the dance floor while she shrieked with laughter. Only that it took me so long to believe we deserved this, Denise replied, watching her husband and daughter together. Her husband. The word still felt new and wonderful. And Maya's been planning this wedding since the second date. She's exactly where she wants to be. As the evening wound down and Maya fell asleep in a chair, still wearing her flower girl dress and tiara, Denise found herself standing with Ethan on the community center steps, looking out at Charlotte's skyline. Think we'll make it? She asked, leaning into his warmth. Make it where? Through whatever comes next. The media attention when they realize we actually got married. The challenges of raising a daughter who's already more confident than both of us. The regular, everyday stuff that breaks up marriages every day. He was quiet for a moment, considering the question seriously. I think, he said finally, that we've already survived the worst thing that could happen to us. Someone tried to destroy our family before we'd even built it, and we're still here. Still choosing each other. Still believing this is worth fighting for. Inside the community center, Maya stirred in her sleep and murmured something about dragons and wedding cake. Plus, Ethan added with a grin, we have Maya. She'll keep us too busy to fall apart. As they gathered their sleeping daughter and prepared to head home. To their home now, officially, Denise realized the story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. 1 year into marriage, the Cross family had settled into rhythms that looked surprisingly normal from the outside. School runs, soccer practice, family dinners where Maya dominated conversation with increasingly sophisticated observations about everything from playground politics to dragon mythology. Mrs. Henderson says I'm reading at 5th grade level, Maya announced over Thursday night takeout from her favorite Chinese restaurant. She thinks I should test for the gifted program. That's amazing, baby, Denise said, but something in Maya's tone suggested there was more to this story. The thing is, Maya continued with 8-year-old diplomacy, the gifted program is at a different school. A fancier school where kids wear uniforms and probably don't know about dragons. Ethan looked up from his lo mein. You don't want to switch schools? I like my school. I like my teacher. I like that Tommy sits next to me and shares his animal crackers, even though his mom says sharing food spreads germs. The unspoken question hung over dinner like a bridge they hadn't expected to cross so soon. Could they send Maya to a private school that would challenge her academically? Absolutely. Should they uproot her from the community and friendships she'd built? That was harder to answer. What if, Denise said carefully, we visited the new school and let you decide? Really? I get to choose. You get input. Big input. This is your education we're talking about. Maya considered this with the seriousness she brought to all major decisions. Can I think about it for a week? You can think about it for as long as you need. Later that evening, after Maya had retreated to her room with homework and the latest Dragon Book series, Denise found herself standing in their bedroom. Their shared bedroom now, with photos of all 3 of them on the nightstand and Maya's artwork taped to the bathroom mirror. Penny for your thoughts, Ethan said, emerging from the shower with damp hair and the easy comfort of someone who belonged in this space. Just thinking about choices. How different our lives could have been if we'd made different ones. Regret different or grateful different? She leaned against the window, looking out at Charlotte's evening skyline that had become as familiar as breathing. Grateful different, but also scared different. Scared of what? Scared that we're going to mess this up. That success will change us, or that Maya will grow up thinking money solves everything, or that we'll forget what it felt like when we had to fight for this. How do you stay grounded when your whole world changes? When has success felt scarier than struggle? Share your thoughts on navigating new chapters. He joined her at the window, arms wrapping around her waist from behind. Remember our first date? When Maya fell asleep at the restaurant and you were terrified the hostess would judge us. I remember. What matters isn't where we eat dinner or what school Maya attends or how much money we have in the bank. What matters is that we still see each other clearly, still choose each other daily, still put Maya's happiness above everything else. A crash from Maya's room interrupted the moment, followed by her voice calling out, "I'm okay. Just drop my science project." They found her on the floor, surrounded by construction paper, glue sticks, and what appeared to be an elaborate volcano that had suffered structural damage. "Need help?" Ethan asked. "I've got it, but can you help me with the big words in my report? I want to make sure I explain how lava works correctly." 20 minutes later, they were all on the floor helping reconstruct Mount Maya, while she read her report about volcanic eruptions with the enthusiasm of someone who discovered the most interesting topic in the universe. Did you know that some volcanoes stay quiet for hundreds of years before they erupt? Maya asked. It's like they're sleeping, but then something wakes them up and they change everything around them. Kind of like how Mama and Daddy met, Ethan said without thinking. Maya looked up from gluing cotton balls to represent steam. What do you mean? Well, Mama was doing fine on her own, taking care of you, working hard, building a good life. And I was doing okay too, just focused on work and business stuff. We were like quiet volcanoes. Everything looked calm on the surface. And then you met, and everything changed. Everything got better, Denise corrected. Changed and better. Like a good eruption instead of a bad one. Exactly like that. As they finished the volcano project and supervised the nightly routine of teeth brushing and story reading, Denise realized they'd found their answer to the school question without even trying. This was home, not the penthouse apartment with its expensive view and luxury amenities, but these moments on the floor building science projects and having conversations about volcanic love stories. Maya could handle academic challenges anywhere. What she needed was the security of knowing her family would navigate changes together, making decisions based on love rather than external expectations. "Tomorrow," Denise said as they tucked Maya into bed, "we'll call Mrs. Henderson and set up that school visit. But we'll also talk to the principal about enrichment programs at your current school. Options. Lots of options. Because smart girls deserve choices. Smart girls and families that love them no matter what they choose," Ethan added. Maya yawned, volcano project forgotten in favor of sleep. "I love our family," she murmured. "Even when we're messy and complicated. Especially when we're messy and complicated," Denise whispered back. In the hallway outside Maya's room, Ethan pulled Denise close. "Think we passed the test." "What test?" "The one where normal family problems feel scarier than stalkers and media attention." She laughed, realizing he was right. Educational decisions and growing pains and the everyday challenges of raising a gifted 8-year-old somehow felt more daunting than anything they'd faced in their first year together. "We passed," she said, "because we're still talking about it together instead of making assumptions about what's best." "Good thing," he said, kissing her forehead, "because I have a feeling Maya's just getting started with complicated questions." As they settled into bed, surrounded by the comfortable silence of a house where people loved each other enough to argue about volcano projects and school choices, Denise felt something she'd never experienced before. Peace. Real, lasting, this is what home feels like, peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, new chances to prove they could handle whatever came next. But tonight, they were just a family figuring things out together. And that felt like everything. 5 years after that first rain-soaked evening at Fahrenheit, the Cross family had settled into the kind of happiness that photographs well, but lives even better. Maya, now 12 and armed with the confidence that came from knowing she was loved unconditionally, burst through the front door with the energy of someone who had. "Guess what?" she announced to the penthouse at large, dropping her backpack with the casual disregard of someone who knew it would be there when she needed it. "What?" Denise called from the kitchen, where she was attempting to master Ethan's grandmother's chicken recipe with mixed but improving results. I got into the summer program at Duke, the one for kids who want to study marine biology. And Tommy got in too, so I'll know someone, and they have actual laboratories where we get to study real fish and maybe dolphins if we're really good. The words tumbled out in the breathless rush of 12-year-old excitement. But underneath the enthusiasm was something else, the quiet confidence of a child who knew her dreams mattered to the adults in her life. Ethan emerged from his office. Conference call forgotten in favor of Maya's news. Duke's summer program? That's incredible. When does it start? July. For 6 weeks. And before you ask, yes, I checked. There's dorms for kids who live too far away, but since we're only 2 hours from Durham, I can come home on weekends if I want to. If you want to. Denise raised an eyebrow. Not sure how I feel about my daughter being too cool for family time. Maya rolled her eyes with the practiced patience of someone who'd been having this conversation with overprotective parents for years. I want to come home, but maybe not every weekend. Maybe some weekends I want to stay and do extra research or hang out with my lab partner or just see what it's like to be independent for a little while. Independent. The word hit both parents with the weight of time passing and children growing up, whether anyone was ready or not. How do you celebrate your child's independence while mourning the end of their complete dependence on you? When did your baby become someone with their own dreams? Share your bittersweet parenting moments. We're proud of you, Ethan said, pulling Maya into one of the hugs she still tolerated despite being too sophisticated for public displays of parental affection. Marine biology, huh? Following in Jacques Cousteau's footsteps. More like following in Dr. Sylvia Earle's footsteps. She's the one who really pioneered deep-sea research. Did you know she lived underwater for weeks at a time, just to study fish behavior? I did not know that. Well, now you do. And maybe someday I'll live underwater too and study how dolphins communicate and whether whales really have their own languages. The conversation continued through dinner, Maya describing research possibilities with the same enthusiasm she'd once reserved for dragon stories. 12 years old and already planning a career that would take her to oceans around the world. When I was 12, Denise said as they cleared dishes, I thought being a veterinarian was the most adventurous career possible. You could still be a veterinarian, Maya pointed out with a logic that made her dangerous in family debates. You're only 34. That's not old. Thanks for that ringing endorsement of my youth. I'm just saying, if I can study marine biology at Duke when I'm 12, you can study anything you want when you're 34. Later that evening, after Maya had retreated to her room to video chat with Tommy about summer program preparations, Denise found herself on the balcony that had become their thinking spot over the years. You're doing it again, Ethan said, joining her with 2 glasses of wine and the comfortable presence of someone who knew her moods better than she knew them herself. Doing what? Thinking so loud I can hear it from inside. She accepted the wine, but kept staring out at Charlotte's skyline, which had remained constant while everything else in their lives transformed. I'm thinking about time. How fast it moves when you're not paying attention. 5 years ago, Maya was 7 and thought you were magic because you knew ice cream truck songs. Now she's 12 and wants to live underwater studying whale languages. And that makes you sad. It makes me grateful and terrified and proud and a little lost. He leaned against the railing beside her, close enough to touch but giving her space to work through whatever was churning in her head. Lost how? For so long. My identity was wrapped up in being Maya's mom. Single mom, working mom, protective mom. Now she's becoming this independent person with her own dreams and goals, and I'm not sure who I am when she doesn't need me to be everything anymore. You're still her mom. You're still the person who taught her that dreams matter and that she's brave enough to chase them. But what else am I? Who is Denise Cross when Maya's living in dorms and studying dolphins and building her own life? The question hung between them like a challenge neither of them had anticipated. Maybe, Ethan said carefully, this is your chance to find out. Find out what? What you want to be when you grow up. The phrase made her laugh despite the weight of the conversation. I'm 34 years old. I think I missed the what do you want to be when you grow up deadline. Maya doesn't think so. She just told you that you could study anything you want at 34. From inside the apartment, they could hear Maya's voice rising in excitement as she described research possibilities to Tommy, her words carrying the conviction of someone who'd never been told her dreams were too big. She gets that confidence from you, Ethan said quietly. From watching you fight for what mattered, work 2 jobs to build a life for both of you, refuse to settle for less than you deserved. She believes anything is possible because you showed her it was. And now you get to show her what it looks like when a mom pursues her own dreams too. The idea felt both terrifying and thrilling. Space to want things just for herself, time to explore interests beyond Maya's immediate needs, permission to be someone other than just a mother. I don't even know where to start. Start with what makes you curious. What did you love before life got complicated? She thought about it, reaching back through years of survival mode and single parenthood to remember the girl who'd had time for personal interests. Writing, she said finally. I used to write stories. Never show them to anyone, but I had notebooks full of characters and plots and whole worlds I'd created. Stories like what? Regular people in extraordinary situations. Women who had to be braver than they thought possible. Families that chose each other instead of just being born into each other. Sounds familiar. I suppose it does. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Charlotte's evening lights flicker on as the city settled into night. What if I'm terrible at it? She asked eventually. What if you're amazing at it? What if I fail? What if you succeed? Maya's laughter drifted from her room, followed by the sound of her explaining complicated scientific concepts with the patience of someone who genuinely loved learning. She's going to be incredible, Denise said softly. She already is, just like her mother. Her mothers who might go back to school and study creative writing like a crazy person. Her mother who might do whatever makes her happy, because she's finally free to choose happiness instead of just survival. The next morning brought Maya's typical breakfast chatter about marine biology and summer programs, but something had shifted in Denise's perspective. Instead of dreading Maya's growing independence, she found herself imagining what her own independence might look like. Mama, Maya said between bites of cereal, what did you want to be when you were my age? A writer. I wanted to tell stories about people who found their courage when they needed it most. Why didn't you become a writer? Life got complicated. I had to focus on taking care of you. Maya considered this with her usual thoughtfulness. But you did become a writer. You just didn't know it. What do you mean? You wrote our story. You and Daddy. You took all the scary parts and the sad parts and the complicated parts, and you turned them into a family. That's what writers do. They take messy things and make them into stories that matter. Out of the mouths of 12-year-olds came wisdom that adults spent years trying to understand. So maybe now you could write other people's stories too? Maya continued. Help them figure out how to be brave like you were. That afternoon, while Maya was at soccer practice and Ethan was in meetings, Denise found herself at the computer in their home office, staring at a blank document and trying to remember how to begin. She started with what she knew. She stood in the rain clutching her daughter's hand, knowing she was about to walk into the kind of restaurant where her 2 jobs combined couldn't buy a single appetizer. But desperation makes cowards of us all. The words flowed like water finding its level, carrying her back to that terrifying, wonderful evening when everything changed. Not fiction this time, but truth. Their truth. The story of how love conquered fear, how families could be built instead of just born, how single mothers and tech executives and 7-year-old girls could create something beautiful together despite every obstacle. Hours later, Ethan found her still typing, lost in the rhythm of capturing their journey in words that sang. How's it going? He asked, reading over her shoulder. It's going. I don't know if it's good, but it's going. Want to read me what you've written? She scrolled back to the beginning and read him the opening paragraph, her voice gaining strength as she heard the story through his ears. It's us, he said when she finished. It's us. Are you going to let Maya read it? Eventually, when it's finished, when I'm ready to share our story with the world. The world is going to love it. How can you be so sure? Because it's a true story about love winning. Those are the best kind. That evening, After Maya had finished her homework and they'd settled into their routine of family dinner and conversation about everything and nothing, Maya made an announcement. "I've decided something about the summer program." "What's that?" Denise asked. "I want to go. For all 6 weeks. Even though I'll miss you and worry about whether you're eating enough vegetables without me to remind you." The acceptance came with surprising ease, as if Denise's heart had been preparing for this moment without her conscious knowledge. "We'll miss you too, but we want you to have every opportunity to chase your dreams, even if it means being far away. Especially if it means being far away. Independence is scary, but it's also brave. And you, Maya Cross, are the bravest person I know. I learned it from watching you, Mama." Later that night, after Maya had gone to bed and Ethan was reading in his chair by the window, Denise returned to her computer and the story that was becoming more real with every word. She wrote about fear and courage, about taking chances on love even when logic argued against it. She wrote about 7-year-olds who saw magic in everyday moments and men who chose ready-made families over convenient bachelor lives. She wrote about stalkers and media attention and the way love could survive anything when it was built on truth instead of fantasy. But mostly, she wrote about transformation, how people could become who they were meant to be when someone loved them enough to see their potential. As Charlotte settled into sleep around them, the Cross family had found their rhythm for this new phase of life. Maya growing into independence, Denise discovering dreams beyond motherhood, Ethan supporting both the women he loved as they figured out who they wanted to become. "Forever looks like this," Denise whispered to herself as she saved the document and closed the computer. Not the dramatic gestures or grand romantic scenes she'd once imagined, but the quiet moments of choosing each other daily. The ordinary magic of family dinners and homework help and conversations about marine biology and creative writing. Love that had started with desperation in the rain had grown into something steady and sure and strong enough to hold them through whatever came next. Maya would go to Duke and study dolphins. Denise would finish her book and maybe write another one. Ethan would continue building companies while building a family that mattered more than any business success. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the city lights reflected off their windows and Maya's laughter echoed through their home, they would remember that first night at Fahrenheit when 3 strangers became a family over chicken and rice and crayons on cloth napkins. Forever looked like this, not perfect but real. Not easy, but worth every moment of the fight to build it. When worlds collide, sometimes they create something beautiful. Sometimes they create everything. Thank you for reading When Worlds Collide. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who believes in love that conquers fear. Leave a comment about your own story of unexpected family. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about ordinary people finding extraordinary courage.